so many companies out there are just sleeping on this opportunity. It's inexpensive. And if you plan it the right way, you can cut your sales time to close in half, like by 50%. So it's crazy.
It feels really scary to niche down. You might make something that has way fewer views than you ever imagined, but the impact of it is much greater than you could have imagined because all the right people it resonates for.
You have to demonstrate some form of transformation in any story that you tell. That is like my guiding force for anyone that tells stories now. I'm like, where are you taking people from and where are they going?
Well, hello, and welcome to Talking Slide with Chris Savage. I'm your host, Chris Savage. I'm joined by the one and only Sylvie Lubau. Sylvie, what's up?
What's going on?
You know, having another crazy day. How about yourself?
I just realized I answered a question with a question.
Did you? Did you?
Did I?
This is the show with the loudest takes on building businesses, unforgettable products, and top-notch brands. Every marketer knows that they need video, but most don't have a strategy. Some think it's too expensive, others don't know where to start, and a lot are stuck making one-off videos that don't really move the needle. At Wistia, we hear this all the time.
And we say it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't, Sylvie. And today, we're getting loud with someone who's proving it. Ademola Adelakun, founder of A2 Media. He's worked with brands like Shopify, Partner Hacker, and Chili Piper, helping them turn video into an actual growth engine. We're going to talk about the biggest misconceptions holding marketers back, Ademola's approach to building a video strategy from scratch, and why putting the customer at the center of the story changes everything.
And maybe we'll even inspire you to make your very own video.
I mean, definitely.
Okay.
Interactive video. It's got me talking too loud because I feel like not enough companies are implementing it. And just to clarify, interactive video in the sense of, did you watch that thing on Netflix where Black Mirror presented this like choose your own adventure thing, Bandersnatch?
I saw it, but I didn't do it.
Right. Yeah. So the people that did it, they had like a 95% completion rate because they just wanted to see all their options. Right. And there's a way to do that on landing pages and in sales emails. And I think Wistia does this as well, where you can have like call to action sort of buttons in your video.
Call to action to another video. Yeah.
Right. And not enough companies are using it. So they're losing people in the first half of their content. And I'm like, if you just give them the option to be in the driver's seat, then they'll actually get through more of your content because they're just curious about where these things go. And as a secondary benefit, they learn what they need to learn for you to close a deal with them. So it frustrates me. I don't know if this is what you meant by talking too loud, that so many companies out there are just sleeping on this opportunity. It's inexpensive. And if you plan it the right way, you can cut your sales time to close in half by by 50%. So it's crazy. And I don't know why companies are not jumping on the opportunity.
When you say that, are there specific like examples? I mean, you obviously can't say the company's name, but like of places where you've gone and helped someone do this and it really, it changed how they thought about like even using video in this use case?
Yeah, absolutely. I can probably mention them because they were acquired, if that's cool. And then if not, we can just take this out.
It's always fun to bleep things. So you just say it and we'll bleep it.
Yeah. So the company that I did this for initially was called Reveal, and they had two different ICPs that they worked with. And the first video is, are you this or that? And then once they clicked that, it was like, okay, cool. You're probably concerned about these things. What do you want to learn about? And it took people through the process. And by the time they booked a demo, because booking a demo was an option in the video, the people that came to the calls were much more prepared than those that just came in cold. And the salespeople there were like, okay, what are the terms that you want to sign on? And it was crazy, the lift that we saw in conversion rate and time to close, because we just gave them the information that they needed in a fun way.
That's awesome. Do you think it also gave them more agency because like they felt like they're proactively moving forward? Like it's like, the equivalent of being on a call and someone saying like, this is where I think we are. Do you agree? And they're like, yes. Then you keep going.
Right. As opposed to like a sales deck that's the same every single time.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm really into these days. I'm still trying to convince clients of ours to implement it. And some are listening. Others are frustrating, but we take it day by day.
What's the pushback? Like, why wouldn't someone want to do an interactive feature?
They deprioritize it. So they're like, it's a cool idea, but we need this ad going out next week. So can we just focus on that? And there's always a priority over this thing. And I'm like, hey, listen, we can make this one filming session. You just got to sit down for 2 hours, bang out all these scripts. And then once you're done, we don't have to talk about it again, but just do it. But a lot of them just don't feel that it's the right time, or they're just prioritizing other things.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's also in this world that we're in now where it's much easier to repurpose, recut, reshoot, fill in gaps with AI. Like, it does require, I think, people changing their frame of reference of like even what a video is, right? Like, because 5 years ago, it would be like, okay, I got approval. I have a budget. We're going to make the sales video. It's going to be really sick. We think everyone's going to love it. And it's going to improve conversion rate. And you would do one video. And then today, for a similar budget, not exactly the same, but similar, you're like, all right, we're going to make that one, but we're going to make 6 different versions of it. We're going to put it in all these different places. We're going to treat the data differently. And that does require not just like the production has changed, the workflows have changed, the data has changed, but the human behavior has to keep up and change too, or else like you're not going to be able to explore these new use cases.
Absolutely. And for the people that are stepping into it now, and it's like their first bout with video, they're still in the mindset of all it takes is one sick video to convert. And like they learn pretty quickly that, okay, no matter how much money we put behind this ad wise, like it's not working, because like you said, we need to split this up into a few different formats and get in front of people a few different times in order for them to actually take action. So 100% agree.
Let's zoom out a little bit, because we dove all the way in. I want to go back up to the top.
Yeah.
And I want to dig in on specifically like short form video. And I know it's something that you care deeply about, but what was the aha moment that made you realize that short form could be more than just like nice marketing? It could actually be a growth lever.
Yeah, I think for me on the ad side of things, especially, I found that short form, getting things in front of people in like 15 to 30 seconds was like a huge unlock for us, because I find that the majority of people are trying to pack a ton of information into like a 60 to 90 second clip, and people tune out after 5 to 10 because they're like, well, I know this is for me, but it feels like they're selling me. But if you build intrigue at the top of funnel with short form content and you lead them somewhere that they can find more information in the way that their brain would be asking for that information, then you stand a much better chance of short form content working for you. What I find typically, and I know you didn't ask this, what I find typically is there's a bunch of companies out there that throw a bunch of shit against the wall, and they're like, okay, as long as it's 45 seconds, 60 seconds, it will eventually convert.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. So it's just like, it's more about planning. If you have short form content that delivers value really quickly and builds intrigue in a way that people are like, what is that? Or I know that's for me and I need it. And then they go to the next step. That is where the growth comes in. And I find random acts of content are just not the answer, which is where most companies are at right now.
Random acts of content. I like that.
Thank you. I stole it from a friend. He's going to be so pissed when he sees it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you invented that. So congratulations. Yeah, that is interesting, because I think like we've seen a bifurcation with attention, right? Like we're all incredibly judgmental with our attention, where you just swipe away if something doesn't capture you in the first half a second. Right. But also because now there's long form content on every topic, if you want to go deep, you can go deeper than you've ever gone. And I think it's like, I think about these two things together as like, you need to have the short form that is actually delivers and is useful, but that like adds up to like, well, if you were to watch 5 of these shorts that are all under a minute, maybe your chances of watching the very long form one that goes in great depth you might actually be a great candidate for that, but it almost seems like the conversation is often about, like we have short attention spans now, which I'm not sure is true. I just think we spend more time in short attention span land, but also like I think we spend more time in long form niche content land than we used to as well. Right.
That's just the thing, right? Like the niche part of that is so important, because the feedback that we've been getting recently is we leaned fully into short form content on LinkedIn for like a year, and people were like, hey, it's really great that like you give all this advice. And I'm like, okay, but are you going to buy? And they're like, no. Do you sell something? And I'm like, fuck, what is going wrong? What is going wrong here? And what I realized is that for us, it takes longer for short form content to convert. And we found that like the thing about short form content for us is we weren't pitching ever. So people didn't know that we offered a service. We were just giving out advice. When we made the shift to long form content, there was more of a, hey, this is a consultation feeling. So the short form content was really good at getting people to know that we help with video, or we do video, we know stuff about video. But the long form content was really interesting for us as a shift, because now it's like, we know our ICP, here are the problems that you experience, and we're going to take 5 to 10 minutes to walk you through this specific problem that you're having. And our conversion rate's like 3x'd, because we were like, okay,
Wow.
if you're, yeah, it was crazy. I was really shocked, but people were like, okay, now I understand that you have a service and you're speaking exactly to the problems that I have. Whereas before, it was too general. Like, you were speaking about video, we didn't really know where you helped, what you do. And that shift has been monumental for us.
That's amazing. And it also is just a reminder, like, if you start a conversation with someone, you need to finish it. Right? Like, you start the conversation with the short form. If you don't finish the conversation, then it's like, it's a new conversation. Like, maybe I didn't actually ask for this other thing.
Right. Yeah, but just going back to your point too, like, the longer form content, as long as it's specific and people know it's for them, and you have to call that out pretty early, they'll sit through it because they know like you had them in mind. Whereas, you know, if we look at some podcasts out there that cover a multitude of topics, people will just kind of look at the chapters on YouTube and be like, that's relevant. Okay, thanks, bye. So it's really about knowing like everything that they would think about pertaining to the topic that you choose to talk about.
You know, we've tried some stuff recently on LinkedIn that's been quite different for us. And it's been me and our head of production, Chris Levine, and Billy Woodward, who does a bunch of like AI video stuff for us. And the two of them are showing me basically what's possible. And I'm almost like reacting to it. And we launched a video that was like 15 minutes cut down for like 23. It was like basically an actual meeting. It's much longer than you'd ever think would work on LinkedIn. Like 15 minutes of a meeting sounds horrible. But the interesting thing was they're showing me like bleeding edge stuff of what's possible. I'm reacting in real time, talking about what I think the implications are. Then we're having this like conversation, and it's been some of the best performing content we put out in the last month. And I think it is like, if you want to go deep on this topic and understand the implications of how, you know, AI video creation is going to change what our limitations are, then you're like, yeah, I'll easily spend 15 minutes on this, probably spend hours on it, you know, which is very interesting to see. It's like not a thing I expected we would do, but it's something that's really worked.
It's really cool. People are super curious. And, you know, as much as we are talking about AI on LinkedIn and we're in these bubbles that are probably far more advanced than the average person who's just like, what is ChatGPT? Like, there are so many things out there that, you know, we don't know about and we're testing now that people are curious about. And that's going to be the case for a long time. Like, there are going to be a lot of AI use cases that we don't really push the limits of because they're advancing as quickly as we're sort of discovering them. But I suspect that's probably why that content is doing so well, because everyone's curious about AI. I've seen a couple of them. They look really cool, like the effects that you said his name was Chris?
Yeah, Chris and Billy,
are using, and like your reaction, like the fact that it's your real-time reaction to, I think people are bought into that, because that's probably...
Did you see the Earthling one, or the like one from the other planet?
I think so.
But I agree with your take that basically it's like, we want to figure out what the implications of this is. And it is the real-time reaction. I mean, it's funny. We just posted something today. I mean, check with me in a week of how it did. I thought it was too boring to post. I was like, this is too boring, this content. But someone on the team was like, you know, I actually don't see people explain these basic nuts and bolts of this. I think we should just try it and see, because it is completely real. And it's just this interesting transition. But we're going down a deep rabbit hole. I want to pull us back up again. I want to go back to the strategy level. So we kind of like hinted at this before. When you're building a strategy for a B2B company or a SaaS company or what have you, what do you think is what's the first question that you ask to kind of set off like, okay, this is how we're going to, if we do this, I think we're going to have a strong video strategy?
Yeah. I would say the very first question is, what is everything that your prospects need to believe before working with you? that usually gives us the roadmap for, okay, if they need these 5 questions answered, then we need to hit these 5 topics all the time. And then we can figure out what pieces of content to put where at the right time, so they feel supported through that process. And then if it's okay, I'll ask a second, or tell you the second question, which is typically, who's the enemy, right? Is it
Whoa,
right?
that's spicy.
Appreciate it. Is it like a competitor? Is it an approach? Is it beliefs? Right? And that gives
Is it
people
themselves?
Is it right? Should you go out of business right now?
Yeah. Time to call it.
Right? Self-deprecating. No, but those are the 2 top questions that I ask, and I find that it really resets their mind, because they're like, well, in every video we just need to sell, and I'm like, actually, you need to support people who would eventually buy from you. So let's think about it that way.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think is the biggest misconception companies have about video marketing today?
Well, according to the State of Wistia report that I read, I actually did. I sent that to every client. That was an amazing piece from you guys. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Also, yeah, no worries. The
All right, you don't even have to answer. Just we'll cut it there. just
right. Yeah. So I would say the fact that video is too expensive, that's probably a really big misconception, because people are like, well, we spoke to some production agencies and they quoted us like $100,000-$200,000 for one video. And I'm like, yeah, you can go that route. It won't work. And you can also go the route of just teaching your employees to be on their iPhone cameras and talking about relevant things. Usually you can start with frequently asked questions, right? But I would say the fact that it's too expensive, there's always ways to make video work for you that are within your budget. But if you look at it that way, then you'll just never start.
Preach.
I think there's many misconceptions or many barriers that people kind of list at the top. Expensive, or like, why does this need to be a video and not text? And it feels like half the battle of video is just convincing them that there's real ROI. So like, what have you seen with your clients where it's just like video could do something that like text never could, or that an image never could?
Yeah, I think the whole concept behind like show don't tell, like there's a lot of clients that are out there trying to text their way to prospects understanding. And I'm like, if you wrote down how to tie your shoelaces to someone who had never done it before, don't you think that'd be a lot harder than just showing them a video of how to do it? And their answer is always yes. And I'm like, well, content applies the same way. Like, I think it's 90% of people look at video content from a company before they decide to buy, right? If you don't have video content, typically what happens is you're putting out a ton of content that's warming up buyers for your competitors, right? So for me, I'm just like, I feel like sometimes it's okay for the ROI to not be immediately visible. We don't have all the tools we need to tell stories like, okay, well, this person watched an ad from A2 Media 2 months ago, and then they woke up in the middle of the night and they were like, we got to buy now, right? Like, you're not always going to be able to tell that story, but how you can tell that story if you're really worried is just before and after, right? Like, have your salespeople note down when people consumed content, or like if people are using the same language that you use in your video content, that's a good sign that they're watching. But talking through the fact that like not everything is measurable really kind of like calms clients down, because they're like trying to figure out the answer to everything, and there's sometimes not,
Yeah, I feel like some people can absorb that and like really hold that, and other folks not so much. I mean, like, I don't know, Chris, when you're talking to like prospects, do you feel like most marketers get why video is so great?
Everyone sees video as important. I think we see video as important inherently. You can tell from how you spend your time that you're watching these video, a lot more video than you used to. So I think people know that. I think that the challenge is, do they really think about the depth of what we're talking about here? Not always, right? I think, as you were talking, Ademola, I was thinking about like, well, how do you know the ROI in the conversation of what a salesperson says, like what specific things they're saying? You eventually know if they close a deal or not. But like, you don't know word for word, section by section, slide by slide what's working, but that's fine because you know that the package of these things is like close enough for you to be able to tell.
Right.
And you trust, like if you talk to a salesperson and they are like have an incredibly good way of pitching you your own product, like you're going to trust they're probably going to do a pretty good job in the call. And so I kind of think when you look at video like in a similar vein or you evaluate it in a similar way, it's just slightly different, which is like, well, do I buy this? Do I believe this? Can I show this to somebody else? Does it look like it actually convinces them? It's like, well, yeah, it seems pretty darn good. Like I think it does. Then it's probably helping you. The question is exactly how much is it helping you? And I don't know, if you trust that, you get easier at, I think, manipulating the inputs to get better outputs, right? Because like that's what you want. You want the right input that people see over and over, and it adds up to have like a really big impact, which is also to what you're saying, I think, around the videos higher in the funnel. And if you're warming up the leads for somebody else, if you don't actually close them down, that's a problem too. It's like, well, if you feel confident you have the right content at the right place for that person, then yeah, you're going to do that. You're going to have a way larger impact. So that's at least how I feel like it keeps coming up.
Yeah. No, I need to think about that tonight. Well, before I go to sleep. It is all about trust, right? And like you said, manipulating the right inputs and making sure that you're doing all the things to eventually close the deal. That's what's important. And the story will be different for most of your clients. But if you know, okay, if someone sees a video at this point, then they're more likely to move to the next step. And then if they see this video, then they're more likely to sign here. It's just about the likelihood. It doesn't have to be a 100% thing, which is...
That's right.
What I run into with some prospects where they're like, how can you guarantee that we're going to close a deal from this video? And I'm like, I can't. So,
well, also,
make that promise,
I think so many people would say that. And if you were to turn around to them and say, how do you guarantee that your product's going to work? How do you guarantee they can't, right? Like there's this big thing, I think, in business in general and in life where like, I think a lot of decisions are guesses. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you actually,
why did you say that with such a?
Well, because I think if you really think about what that means, like, so like, okay, we're going to do research on this market. We're going to try to go build a product and like go put it in this market. And like, how big is the market? Well, almost always like there's a lot of guesses in there. There's a lot of things where someone comes to you and says it's research, so you don't treat it as a guess. But it often is. It's someone's interpretation of data. It's someone's guess at what the data means. There's a guess part. I think what ends up happening often is like analysis paralysis, where you look at all these data inputs, you're trying to understand why something is happening the way it's happening. But if you can admit that there's guessing involved, you can give yourself permission to look at it from first principles and say like, hey, if I have this video that someone watches and it's an overview of like the problem that they have, and it does a really good job describing the problem, does that seem like they'd be more likely to trust that I have a good answer if I understand their problem? And you're like, yes. You break it into these pieces. And then, it is always about the inputs, because often like optimizing the outcomes is often too late. That's the thing I think that ends up happening. It's like, well, it didn't move the number on sales. So it's like, okay, well, did your traffic change? Did your person on the sales team call? Are they the same as they were before? Is the product the same? Did you update it? Did you update it and think you're doing something better and you made it worse? Like these are all real things that happen in the real world. And so, I think it's like a freedom actually you can get if you admit that there's a lot of guessing, because then you can actually trust yourself on your own instincts in there. And often you get to the right place faster if you can do that.
Right. And you can position yourself as a more informed guesser than the person in front of you, right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. What's your favorite video campaign you've ever worked on?
Ooh, good question. I think it's one of the first video campaigns that I've worked on full time. So back in the day, I was head of production at this company called Reveal, and it was my first creative role. So it was quite like, why did these guys hire me? Like, I've just made some stuff on Instagram. I don't really understand what the decision process was behind this, but let's guess.
I guess.
Right? Took a guess. Yeah, I like that. And what we did at the time, I didn't know what category creation was, but I learned very quickly that these guys were like, we have something that we want to put out into the market. And I was like, tell me more. And they're like, well, you know what inbound is? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, you know what outbound is? And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, where are you going with this? And they're like, we're a partnerships company. We're partner tech. The company was called Reveal at the time. And they were like, we want a word to describe selling through your network. And I was like, okay, so like selling through partners, having a partner. And they're like, yeah. So we're going to call it Nearbound. And I was like, huh. I actually like that word. I thought I was going to be disgusted, but that's great. uh, so what we did was we started making campaigns around this word, Nearbound. We'd throw it around like everyone was already saying it. We would make a Nearbound series where one of my best friends and I, we would just like mess around on camera. I can't even describe the category, the genre that we made of content. But then on top of that, we were like putting out webinars and pieces of content about people talking about Nearbound using this word. And after 6 months of doing that, we found that people who were in our network or similar companies were putting must-have Nearbound experience on job, what are they called? Descriptions, yeah. Job descriptions. They were using it in their terminology. They were changing their website copy to Nearbound platform, that sort of thing. And I was like, it is insane that you can just say something a bunch of times and people will just pick it up if it's catchy and if you have a good campaign around it. So I would say that's like number one because
that's amazing.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was really fun.
It's very hard to do that. I know a lot of people who have attempted that.
Yeah.
And it is a challenge to get people to use the language.
Yeah. Stop trying to make fetch happen. You know, that's where my brain goes.
Right. But if you do make it happen, it's pretty insane.
That is pretty insane.
Yeah. So that was that's top tier for me, that campaign.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Looking ahead, what trends are you most excited about?
I think I'm excited to see people doing more long form content and more investing more in their personal brands. Like a guess that I have is considering the lower barrier to entry with all these AI tools and AI avatars and all that stuff. In about 6 months to a year's time, people are going to be like, I just want to know that what I'm watching is real. So we're going to see a lot more in-person events. We're going to see a lot more like creator sponsorships happening because if the feed is flooded with AI content, then people are just going to eventually, the same way that we act with ads, where you're like, okay, this is an ad, swipe away. I think we'll get to a point where that happens and people just want to know that they're watching real people. So to summarize, just excited to see more people show up on camera as themselves and invest more in their personal brand.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Yeah, and I think it's exactly the same thing. People are going to want trust. Human beings become more scarce and more valuable. But how do you prove that you're real is the question.
Right.
How do you?
I don't know.
Well, it's obviously like live events, as you just said. I think live events in person are going to be more important. Live events remotely where you can prove that it's live.
Yeah.
We've done events that look beautiful. And people are like, this is pre-recorded. And we'll be like, it's not pre-recorded. And then we'll have to respond to the questions in real time to prove to somebody that it is real. And I mean, honestly, some of the videos we're talking about before that I've been doing of like showing actual meeting reaction things. Right. Like it's very unexpected, not the type of thing an AI could do. I think someone will look at that. They're not going to question for a second that it's real. But yeah, I agree. It's a very interesting, it's clearly happening rapidly. Do you think there'll be something that people start doing that's like very hard for the generative AI models to do that they do on camera to prove they're real, you know?
Oh, I haven't thought about that, but I feel like the battle with AI avatars right now is like mouth movements don't look that natural. And I like to believe that we will never get to a place where they do, but I think that's naive, right? So I don't know. I'd have to think on that. Yeah.
I think we will get there. I mean, before VO3, I kept telling myself, this is like the S curve. I was like, okay, it's going to take a while for us to get to a place where I can where I'm tricked. And then just overnight, I was like, I can't tell it's real. Like it's happened, you know? And I think you're right that the mouth movements are still obvious, but there's a lot of people spending a lot of money and time trying to get them better. Right. So I think we're going to get there pretty quick.
Damn it. Yeah.
But it's, have you seen, did we talk about ethos before, Sylvie?
What did you ask?
Have I talked about ethos on the podcast?
No.
Ethos is this like Instagram restaurant and it's fake. but it says it's like the best food in Austin, and it's called like Ethos ATX, and it's just like it's just like shots. It started with just like stills of crazy food that's obviously AI generated, and then now they have videos that are AI videos of like, you know, whatever, like honeycomb shoes that a woman's walking in, and like you know, like dinosaur croissants that looks like someone made a perfect dinosaur out of croissant. And it has kind of a big following, and it's kind of fun to look at. And it's interesting because I think it just makes it about the creativity. Like, you know, it's AI. So what you're actually valuing is like that the creative juxtaposition of things and the editing, which I think is going to become more important, right? Like the limit is going to be on the direction less than on like what's in it.
That's why are people just following it because they're like, what wild creation are they going to come up with next?
I think so. I think it's like a fun thing. It's like, can you entertain me? And you know, not every single post entertains me, but it does. Like, you know, my kids call him the chocolate guy. His name is Amaury something. He's based in Vegas, and he makes crazy sculptures out of chocolate.
Yes, I think I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
My kids are always like, let's watch the chocolate guy. Let's watch the chocolate guy. But I feel like that's the equivalent of like, there's lots of people who sculpt out of chocolate. This guy's just like, you know, that this guy is incredibly good at what he does. It's also like, what clever thing will he come up with and decide to do? And you kind of assume it's going to be great. Like if I ever watch one of those videos, I'm like, whatever the results of this thing, it's probably going to be great, because I don't think you'd put it up here otherwise. So it's more the like editing, the shots, the vibe of it. Can I guess where he's going to go? It's like the journey of making this great thing, where I think if he just had the stills of the chocolate, like maybe it would do okay. But like the fact that it has the videos and the vibe and the like mystery of like the unraveling of the story is what in my opinion, makes it like so compelling.
Yeah, those guys are crazy. Like, there's so many talented people out there. That reminded me of like the person that paints upside down exclusively, and then he turns it over.
Oh yeah.
How does your brain work like this? But you're 100% right. Those things in video format would perform so much better because you feel like you're there. Whereas like photos of before and after, it's like, okay, well, I missed this event, and like, cool, I guess, but like we didn't get to like go on the journey with you, like you said. But the chocolate guy. Props to that guy. Insane.
Props to that guy. Henri Guichon or something. I don't know. Okay, we have a rapid fire section, so we're gonna jump into that. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
What's the best short form platform for B2B right now? TikTok, LinkedIn, or YouTube Shorts?
LinkedIn. Hate to say it.
But it's true. What's more important in a video? A great script or a great edit?
A great script.
Oh, I thought Sylvie was about to spit out her coffee.
She's like, how dare you?
No, I'm about that script life, you know?
She loves the script.
I do.
Date, marry, kill. A product explainer videos. Customer story videos or thought leadership videos?
Oh, God. Kill product explainers. Date thought leadership videos. And marry, what was the last one?
Customer story.
Customer stories? Yeah, marry customer stories.
Why?
Why? Which one?
Why all? Why all three?
Customer stories are really good at conversion if at the middle and bottom of funnel, if you know what you're doing. Thought leadership videos, I feel like build really good trust at the top of the funnel. And then product explainers, I find typically they're not executed well. Like, I would love all three, clearly, but which is what made it so difficult. But product explainers, I feel, can be done with really good thought leadership. So I was like, just move it into that one. And then, you know.
I see what you did there.
I like it.
Nice.
What's the most underrated use of video in B2B?
Not to get back on my soapbox, but I'd say interactive video. But a more common answer would be edutainment. I feel like too many companies are scared to hop into like showing their personality, and they're like, oh, we want to be taken seriously. So I would say edutainment is probably the top answer for me.
Have you seen a company that you feel like is crushing edutainment?
It's always hard. I hate quoting. I hate like bringing up like the greats. Like, Liquid Death is B2C, and the thing is, their videos don't educate you at all, but they're funny.
Yeah.
Duolingo is kind of in the same category. I actually nothing's coming to mind right now because I don't think I've been blown away by any. Teamwork is a good one. I don't know if you've seen their stuff.
I haven't seen their stuff.
Yeah, and then I'm blanking on a couple of those. I don't want to say you guys, but you guys make great stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't say us on this. That'd be ridiculous. We'd have to believe it. We'll just believe it. You can-
I wasn't fishing, just so you know. That
wasn't
wasn't.
fishing. Yeah, sure. Vertical or horizontal? Who wins in 2026?
ooh, I'm gonna go with horizontal.
We're going back.
Yeah, I think so.
We're going
so.
back, baby.
I like
Yeah.
it. I like it.
I think we are too. I feel like that's been popping more on LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah, horizontal is so back right now. It's crazy.
Stop trying to make fetch happen again. I feel like there's stuff we didn't get into, and I'm trying to think of, is there any other like loud take you have about video that you just feel like people need to know? People need to know that this is what's up.
Yeah, I would say positioning your scripts and your video content, your written content, to put the prospect and customer as the hero versus this is why we're so great. So typically what I see is like, we're an AI first company, here are all our features. And I'm like, garbage, trash, throw it away, right? But the companies that are like, here's who you are, here are the experiences that you're having, agitate the pain a little bit more, get into the journey of like getting to where they want to be, and then being like, here's who we are. Does it make sense? You want to date? Those are the scripts and companies that do really well. And I'm generalizing. There's a bunch of different ways to do that. But the amount of content that I see that's like company first and here's why we're the best, and they all use the same language, that frustrates me because you see stuff working out there that like, you see stuff that has a ton of likes and comments and you're like, that's what works, or this went viral, so it worked. But the stuff that does really well, I find, is more targeted. Even though like they have less impressions and less reach, they're better at converting because they tell a better story. So I would say there's not enough companies out there, A, telling a good story, and B, putting the customer as the hero of the story. And I'd like to see that more.
That is interesting, to start with the you instead of the I or the we.
Right. I think what really changed my mind, and I'm like an avid TikTok consumer. So about 2 years ago, I got served up this video that was like, hey, if you're watching this, you're probably a Black guy that lives in Toronto and you work in tech. And I was like, what is happening right now? Right? I watched that entire video because I was like, I need to hear whatever else this person has to say.
Why are they talking directly?
Right. Yeah. And I'm just like, that is the way. Because if she had started like, hey, like all about herself, there's a chance I would have scrolled away from that video, even though she gets into that information later on. So I just think there needs to be a reversal of how we approach people in the market.
That is very interesting. Do you think in that case they made like a lot of different videos for different demographics of people, or were they actually only talking to you and that became clear through their other content?
I think probably the former. So they probably just tested it out to see, okay, well, if I can speak to this audience, how many people can I get? In the same way that if I made 52 videos and I'm like, the card you chose is the Ace of Spades, Ace of Diamonds, Ace of Hearts, it would eventually be served up to the right audience. But I think it was to demonstrate how good TikTok's targeting was. And I wouldn't be surprised if you made more,
But that's so interesting because and thank you for sharing that story, because I think that people, we talk about like interest-based media instead of just social media.
Yeah.
And I think we experience it, but everyone doesn't really know what that means. Like it's too easy to like fly on by it. And I think what you're talking about is like what it means is that it actually is served to the right person. Like the targeting is that good. And so there is actually a freedom in that, I think, that we haven't been really, those of us making those product videos, those customer story videos and stuff haven't really experienced, which is, hey, if I'm going to do this and put it on the platform, I shouldn't be super generalized. I should be hyper specific on who it's for. And that should get it so that the right people actually end up seeing it, which is just kind of beautiful in its simplicity in a way, but is not the way that has worked until very recently.
Right. Because our attention spans, they're either super short or super long. It's only super long if you feel like it's made directly for you, like we mentioned earlier. Another thing that changed my mind really quickly is, I think it was Alex Hormozy who was talking about these guys that were going for a lot of reach on YouTube. And they just decided, you know what are the things that our like best customers need to know? So we'll just make content about that. They made like 5 30-minute videos going deep into a problem that their best customers were going through. And they went from having like 5 to 10K months to 100K months. And you look at their impressions and it's like under 1,000. So they were just like, anyone who's watching these, after they watch 3 to 5 videos, they trust us way more because they know it's specifically for them. And they work with us because they've had 2.5 hours with us,
Mm-hmm.
There's some gold in there. There's a lot of gold in that moment, I think.
Yeah, it's a risk, right? To go that niche, to talk that explicitly to like one customer segment. But like you're saying that the payoff is that trust that compounds. Wow, I sound like you, Chris. I said you compounds.
Good job. Congratulations. Gold star for that.
Yeah.
But I think but isn't that the funny thing about all of this is that like it feels really scary to niche down. But the truth is you might make something that has way fewer views than you ever imagined, but the impact of it is much greater than you could have imagined because all the right people it resonates for. Yeah. And so it's about, this is like so trite and said so much. It's about knowing your customer and understanding their pain. But actually making it for that core person is very freeing in a lot of ways because it's the thing. If you're everything, then you're nothing, right? If you tell people I can do everything under the sun, they're like, they don't know what to use you for. But if you say I can do this one thing incredibly well for people who have this exact problem, who live in this area, think about this issue, have this budget, then all those people, if they actually see that, it'll be huge.
Absolutely, and you can drive your prices up because of that too. Like, when you go to a doctor, they refer you to a specialist for a reason, right? And if you're the specialist and you advertise and you're like, hey, we only help people who are over 65 that live in this region, they're under this demographic. It's just like, okay, well, my market's a lot smaller, but I know those people will feel seen, so I'm going to charge 10 times more. And like, just got to be comfortable with that.
Yeah. How do you think you tell a great story? What does it take to tell a great story?
I asked one of my friends, his name's Darren Fenton. He worked in Hollywood for about 10 years. And I said to him, if you had to highlight one key thing for storytelling, what would it be? And he said, transformation. And I was like, bro, did you answer this question before? Like, how did you have that so quickly? And he was like, if you can speak to the transformation or show a transformation from bad to good or from, unhealthy to healthy, those are the stories that people lock into. And you have to demonstrate some form of transformation in any story that you tell. And I was like, that is like my guiding force for anyone that tells stories now. I'm like, where are you taking people from and where are they going? We have to put that in there in some capacity. And it has never steered me wrong.
Ademola, thank you so much for joining us today. This is super fun. Where can people connect with you, learn more, work with you? Where should they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ademola Adelakun. It's spelled the way that it sounds. Good luck on LinkedIn. And you can find me either on LinkedIn or at our website, a2media.ca, because we're Canadian.
Amazing. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, guys. This was a ton of fun.